So I'm just messing around with my YouTube here. I mean my Instagram here, and it is doing one of those herky jerky motions, and I do not know why. It is just being quite obstinate in its service to me. So I am gonna go back in and see if it works that way. So just hang on a moment, people, and we're gonna go through the Julius settings. So hopefully that will work out for me on Talk Talk Live. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live, live on IG and YouTube. Maybe a little bit of a later start for IG because that first one was a little not very good. But anyways, getting back to the subject that we were talking about, women, modern women want to stand out from the crowd. They want to get away from the herd, the pack, and they want to deal with men who are of high status and high value. The only way that you can stand out from the crowd and not only deal with these high value men, but any sort of man of means, of status, of competence, is to be, hello Chanel, how are you? Great to see you again, is to be a traditional woman. Go figure. A lot of a lot of men out there these days, when dating women, are in desperate need of finding a traditional woman. And for women to lead with their wallets, to lead with their careers, to lead with their their hypergamy is frankly not exactly the best strategy in terms of the dating market going forward. By women being traditional wives, those who, I mean, within reason now, because again, I'm going to come to it at the end of the show that in most circumstances, this cannot be found, especially in these inflationary times. A home is in need of two incomes in order to move things forward. Only a very, very small minority of men can fit into a one income family whereby they're able to pay all bills and do all things, and usually those are women who are traditional. They're fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive. They know how to cook, they know how to clean, they know how to raise a family, they know how to be a culture bearer for their progeny and be an ambassador to both families in any sort of relationship. But these women are in high demand and are rare. Men are willing to pay high amount of money to find a traditional woman these days because they are definitely in the minority. So if you are a traditional woman, you have a leg up on most of the competition in the dating market. Within reason, within age circumferences, within age parameters, you have a leg up on the market. I'm telling you that, ladies, straight up and down. You have one. Luckily, I myself have a traditional woman, and I'm not willing to lose her. Quite simply, she's worth her weight in gold. And for the most part, if ladies put themselves out as traditional women instead of leading with their careers, they would have a much better chance of finding a man these days. They would. They simply would. And I'm telling you that from the heart, and tell you that as the truth. If you ask an average guy on the street, most guys would take a traditional woman over a modern woman, hands down. Don't believe me? Let's get into it. My people. All right, we're going to get into the browser here, and thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live. We're going to get into this the CNN show. I think it's where is it now? I think it's just let me get here. Let me get the name of the show. Yes, it is Shmericon. Shmericonish. It's a Sunday morning show that I came across. It's a couple months back, and I thought tonight would be a good night to discuss some of the views put here. And quite simply, men are at a crisis point in terms of finding women, let alone traditional women. So I'll let it play out from here, and I'll discuss it going forward. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Never did lead off with that, but I thought I started right now because of all the technical issues. But we're gonna get into it right now and talk live. And in on ShmurmerCon, ShmurConish, we're speaking to this gentleman, a professor at NYU. We'll get into his name in just a minute, and let's go.
As always, Professor Galloway was precious.
Galloway,
Back with me now is Scott Galloway. He's a professor of marketing at NYU Stern School of Business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the host of the Professor G podcast and author of multiple best-selling books, most recently, Adrift, America in 100 Charts. Scott, thanks for returning. Hasn't the advantage always been to those with the looks and or the money? What's changed?
First up, Mike, I just want to say thank you for raising this issue a year ago when a lot of media companies were afraid to talk about this for fear that being pro-men was somehow being anti-women. Like, this is returning to the natural
and that's most of media these days, ladies and gentlemen. Let it be said. This is a very, very much a gynocracy in terms of mass media, and if you're not with it, then you are denied from it, and you're thrown to the fringes of the media community. Let's continue.
Things. For the majority of history, a small percentage of men have had the majority of the mating opportunities, but in America, we decided to make a huge investment in what would probably be the greatest innovation in history, and that is in the middle class. From 1945 to 1947, 7 million men returned from war, were discharged from the service, and we decided to give them the GI Bill, subsidized mortgages.
Now, the GI Bill and subsidized mortgages were for white men, quite simply. This is something that is never really talked about. A lot of black GIs who came home never found this, and this gave a leg up on most white soldiers and allowed for generational wealth to begin for a lot of middle class men. A lot of black men missed out on this, but then again, that's besides the by. Let's go.
We saw education rates go from 5 to 45%. They were valued, and we had such a strong manufacturing base that you had massive marriage and household formation. And some men were seen as more economically and emotionally viable. And you've seen the reverse happen with the offshoring of much of our manufacturing base, with a society that quite frankly doesn't value young men. When we talk about problems with people of color or women, we see it as a systemic societal problem. When we see problems or the stats that you just mentioned, we see it as accountability, or that men just need to level up. But married households and household formation are better citizens. They vote, they save at twice the rate, they're less likely to commit crimes, and we have fewer and fewer viable men. We have a dearth of economically and emotionally viable men. But the middle class is an accident. Unless you invest in it, it doesn't happen. Eisenhower decided to invest $500 billion in a national highway project that created tons of jobs. We have, and by the way, the tax rate back then was 91%. We raised money and we redistributed in social programs that made young people more economically viable.
And then, Scott, you toss in the influence of social media and how relationships today, they don't come from, in our era, happenstance and mingling, right? They come from swiping, and that further accelerates this issue. Am I right?
Oh, it's been the chaser to it. I mean, to have an honest conversation about this, we have to be honest, and that is that men and women have different mating criteria. One quarter of men saying economic viability is a key criteria to mate. 3/4 of women say that is important. And when you're on a two-dimensional format, where now it's 1 and 2 relationships begin online, it used to be 1 and 4 just a few years ago, it gets distilled down to a small number of criteria. Specifically for men, it's does she look attractive, and specifically for men, is he able to signal his ability to garner resources in the future? An average attractive male on Tinder gets swiped less than 1% of the time, and there's 3 men on Tinder for every 1 woman. So you've distilled it, you've taken out one of the key components of mating dynamics, and that is vibe, humor, body language, pheromones, the ability to be, quite frankly, a little bit persistent in the pursuit of a romantic relationship. We have no third places anymore, no places to meet. People aren't going to bars, they aren't sports league, they aren't going to church, they aren't even going to work. So it gets distilled down to to very one or two dimensional attributes. And the reality is women are much choosier than men, and they can apply those screens, and they allocate all of their attention to a small number of men that results in just essentially at the end of the day, a lack of opportunities. Chris Williams
Before he goes into this the Chris Williamson comment, let that sink in for a second. Women have much more criteria in terms of what men want. Men are very, very basic in terms of their needs. As long as she breathes, she walks. We would pay a premium for a woman who cooks and cleans and can maintain a family. Other than that, quite simply, those are our criteria. As long as she doesn't have a high body count, as long as she can maintain a family, as long as she can, be loyal to us. That's basically our criteria. With the women, you have to be a certain height. Again, it's the six-pack, six figure, 6 inches or more, and also 6 feet or taller criteria, quite simply. And for a lot of women, a lot of men fall below that barrier. So again, but in terms of the female quotient right now, to get all those additives into one male, a lot of men are going to have a lot to choose from. And for women to stand out in that market, what women have to do now is to become traditional women, quite simply. The main sticking point is the fact is his future prospects, his future earning prospects for a man. That goes up. You can be shorter, you can be fatter, you can be much less attractive. As long as you can earn for a long term, you can find a woman. You can definitely find a woman for yourself. But more often than not, those men are choosing traditional women. Just letting you know, those men are choosing traditional women. So are women willing to change themselves and sacrifice their career and I wouldn't say sacrifice your career, but I would say put your career second to the family, second to your man in order to stand out. Those are the resumes those are the dating profiles that go to the top of the list more often than not, because a lot of men can't afford it, and and those who can afford it are definitely wishing to see their women become said women before actually buying into them for the long term, romantically and familially, and for a legacy of his family going forward. Let's continue.
Summarized it perfectly. Call it the high heels effect. In the last 40 years, more women have graduated from college than men, and they're not interested in mating with non-college grads. They now own more homes, single women than single men. So what you have is women say they won't date anyone shorter than them, 50% of them. Effectively, what you have metaphorically over the last 40 years is women have been getting taller and taller, and men have been getting shorter and shorter. How many of us have said, I know a ton of great single women, they can't find a date?
Okay, I want you to catch that for a second. Metaphorically, he was saying that women are getting taller and taller and men are getting shorter and shorter, meaning that men, in order to hit the grade, usually have to be of a certain height, usually about 5'8" or taller. You say 5'9", 5'10". Well, that's what men have to measure up to. That's what men. So an average height man has a shot, but usually those who are taller, those who are 6 feet or taller only measure up to 15% of the population. They are in the distinct minority. And what do they want from their women? They want their women to be traditional. No matter what the educational background of the person is, no matter what the familial background of the person is, they want them to be traditional. So in order for a woman to stand out, they need to not lead with their careers and lead with what they can do for a man. Sorry, that's the way it is. That's the way it is, especially as you go further up the economic chain in terms of men. further up the height chain in terms of men, further up the looks chain in terms of men. If you want to chat a Tyrone, you have to be traditional. If you want to chat a Tyrone long term and who meets all of the aesthetic criteria for a woman, chances are you have to be traditional. Sure, you can get away with leading with your career, but it doesn't last long because these men have their choice of women to choose from.
That's not true. They can't find a date. They can't find a man they find economically or emotionally viable. If we don't make a massive investment in young people and make more economically and emotionally viable men, we're going to see a lack of household formation. We're going to see a decline in the middle class. And we're going to see, quite frankly, just a lot of young men who are terrible citizens.
So
that is a problem. That last point he made right there. You're going to make a lot of men a lot more terrible citizens. There's a reason why, and ladies, you gotta take this into account. There's a reason why mass shootings are on the rise, and I don't mean to scare you, but there's a reason why there's a mass shootings are on the rise that men are much more terrible citizens, and that there are more sexual assaults on the rise. It's because sex is now at a premium. Being sexually active is a luxury for a lot of men. A whole lot of men. I would say half the men out there have not, and it's been already studied. Half of the men out there have not had sex in a year or are virgins. If you have a frustrated male individual who has not had sex in a year, they're prone to be bad citizens. They tend to be more. They tend to be less docile, angrier, and tend to exhibit their anger outside of themselves. Rather than taking their own life, they'd rather take more lives with them. So that has to be taken into account. But again, we're talking about you ladies, how to set yourself apart from these men, and that is, of course, you have to choose from men who are, you have to be picky and choose from men who are providers, who are protectors and providers. But at the end of the day, these protectors and providers are becoming at a premium because your dating standards are getting higher. You are not willing to settle for an average guy anymore. It has to be of a greater advantage. And most of these gentlemen who you put on a pedestal are going to be wanting to are expecting more from women in and of itself. So, guess what? How do you stand out from the crowd? Be a traditional woman. If men react to traditional women with greater excitement than a modern woman, than a boss chick, without question they do. If you lead with your career, ladies, that is a strike against you. Unless you want a man that you don't really respect. Right? You want a man you can build a legacy with. You want a man who can protect and provide and be a profit to you. You want a man who, hopefully will be a high value man or on the way to being that. And these men are expecting things now because women would rather be, as they said, they would rather be a side chick to a high value man than not. So the competition is stiffer these days. So it is imperative for women to set themselves apart, and doing so, cooking, cleaning, being a potential great mother to a family, automatically puts your application, puts your dating status to the top of the list. And then you can choose from there. Just giving you a little bit of game, ladies.
The answer to fix this economically, and who will champion this conversation? You felt obliged to compliment me at the outset because we had engaged on this a year ago, and here I am revisiting it. And I read into that the fact that you think that it's politically incorrect even to have this dialogue.
When you're seen as advocating for men because of the 300,000-year head start we've had, it seems somehow it's anti-female. There's a lot of very unfortunate misogyny online that is masquerading as being pro-men. A lot of TikTok celebrities who talk about advocating for men, it's just thinly veiled misogyny. What do we need? We need more freshman seats in colleges. We need a massive investment in vocational training. We need to figure out a way to get more permitting for housing so young people can afford housing. We need to recognize our economic policies, literally allocate wealth from young people to old people. The percentage of wealth that young people control under the age of 40 has been cut from 12% to 6%. These are concerted, deliberate decisions. We did away with the child tax credit. We don't want to make it any easier for people to have kids, but seniors just got their largest cost of living adjustment increase in history. We have made the decision to make it harder and more expensive for people to find each other, for people to mate, and for people to have children. And without children, we turn into Japan and Italy, and that is we go into population decline, and our economy goes into decline. We are about to become a society, by the turn of the century, there will be 8 times as many people over the age of 60 and half as many kids under the age of 5. Nursery schools will become these strange situations with old people staring through fences at these creatures they don't see in the wild called children. Is this the world we want? Do we want a lack of kids? Do we want a lack of ability to create households? The happiest, most prosperous, most purposeful people in America are middle-class families. And we have made a concerted decision to punch it in the gut and make it harder for that type of family formation. And we're going to lose prosperity and we're going to lose purpose.
Well said there by the good professor there, and it goes without saying. Let me just get out of there for a second. It goes without saying that he's absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. We'll just go back for a second here, but he's absolutely correct in the sense.
That created training. We need to figure out a way to get more permitting for housing so young. Become a society, by the turn of the century, there will be 8 times as many people over the age of 60 and half as many kids under the age of 5. Nursery schools will become these strange situations with old people staring through fences at these creatures they don't see in the wild called children. Is this the world we want? Do we want a lack of kids? Do we want a lack of ability to create households? The happiest, most prosperous, most purposeful people in America are middle-class families, and we have made a concerted decision to punch it in the gut and make it harder for that type of family formation, and we're going to lose prosperity and we're going to lose purpose.
I'll pause it right there. That is excellent from Professor Calloway. You're dealing with, again, and it speaks to the fact that if you as a lady don't hear that and realize the crying out of what men want, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. Men are literally pleading with ladies to be traditional, because quite simply, with traditionality comes family, comes health, comes wealth, comes and becomes a continuation of society in and of itself. Women are forwarding their careers more than they are children, even though they're the ones who usually have children. And those who are basically willing to have kids and willing to sacrifice and willing to sacrifice for the greater good of the family, they're going to be snapped up like hotcakes. They're going to be snapped up like hotcakes. If you want to be a mother, if you want to be a dedicated mother, you put yourself in the top 1 to 5% of the dating market. Because women are willing to do that because they see it as being a knock against them, as being derogatory, not being derogatory, but as being quite simply misogynistic and a slight against all womanhood. That is the fallacy of feminism in and of itself. It was a movement created by women, to which has led to the downfall of the modern family. That and government, of course. But yes. And men won't tell you this, But I'll tell you that most men are dropping out of the dating market because there are less traditional women. Now, again, as I said, men are willing to pay a premium for said women. So men are willing to pay top dollar in order to do it. So if you want the man of your dreams, be traditional. I'm telling you, literally, be traditional. If you are traditional, you'll stand out from the crowd. If you lead with your job and your career, and you look like you do not want to be around men and you do not need a man's help, that's going to be a deterrent. That's going to be a deterrent that will ultimately lead you to being a good time girl to most men and being alone long term. But let's get into this a little further here by getting into just by this short that I have here from whatever. Shout out to whatever. And they're discussing on why traditional women are hard to find. Let's go into it.
A quarter of the work to get the kind of woman that is 4 times as amazing as the woman he's attracted. Like his grandmother was an amazing woman and a very, very feminine, natural woman. And his granddad really didn't have to do the kind of work he has to do right now.
So you're talking about hoflation.
Yes, totally.
Hoflation, so modern men have to work 5 times harder than their grandfathers did for women 20 times worse than what their grandmothers were.
Consider this, right? The average guy today, his granddad had to put in a quarter of the work to get the kind of woman that is 4 times as amazing as the woman he's attracted. Like his grandmother was an amazing woman and a very, very feminine, natural woman. And his granddad really didn't have to do the kind of work he has to do right now.
So you're talking about hoflation.
Yes, totally.
Hoflation, so modern men have to work 5 times harder than their grandfathers did for women 20 times worse than what their grandmothers were.
Consider this.
Think about it that way. As you see it here in Talk Live. Think about it that way. We are dealing in a society in which, because of the women's movement, because of sexual liberation, because of a woman's right to choose, and hypergamy, we are dealing with women that men say themselves are 4 times worse than their grandmothers, who were traditional women. That's the value we put on traditional women these days. That's why a lot of these guys are flying out to different locales around the world and don't want to be around developed world women, period. Because it's not because they can't deal or handle a woman like you. It's because you don't measure up to a women that were your grandmother's age or your great grandmother's age, who were part of the silent generation, who were part of the silent generation, who were part of baby boom, who were part of even Gen X. I think the last of the great ladies were Gen X women. Millennials and Zennials are totally out of that these days, unfortunately. Again, they're as you go further away from modern day, that's where you'll find the greater female. And that's what men are willing to pay a premium for. Ladies, if you want to stand out in the dating market, lead with being traditional. Lead with being traditional. Even if you are career orientated, you have to give that man that indication that when push comes to shove, you will be traditional for the right type of guy. I'm not saying for you to submit to every man, but he has to be the right man. Absolutely has to be the right man. You have that choice, yes, but with that, it is a competitive market out there. To find the man that you really want, believe me, you are going to have to put yourself forward. Not your career, which is great, but men don't really care about. Not your personality and how you are with, not your personality and how, what you want a man and that sort of thing. You have to literally tell a guy, listen, I can be a traditional woman if called upon. because that never used to be a question, and men would pay a premium. You can find a high-value man quicker leading with that. I'm giving you game, ladies. I literally am. But let's go on. Let's go forward. And oh, here we go here. Yes, I want to get into this one here. This is from The Table with AO with Anthony O'Neill. Great podcast. Subscribe. He is doing very, very well in the relationship dynamic market, and he spoke to a black family, because Lord knows we need help within this community of how being a traditional woman is. It puts you and the family further ahead than being a boss chick. Let's go into it.
Dad wins, and we're not splitting our focus several different ways. But if someone is, 35, 36, 37, 38, they're like, okay, we only want one child. We don't want kids at all. Then that looks different than James and I getting married in our early 20s. Well, I was mid-20s. Getting married early on and designing it from there, knowing, okay, we want children. We want to homeschool. So before we even came up with Marriage by Design, we knew what we wanted our marriage to look like. So that's our biggest thing. And going back to what you had said about the boss chick thing, two different things about the boss chick thing. One or two different ways. I'm going to touch some toes. I'm going to step on with the boss chicks. One or two things. I think there is an innate motherly, I want to have kids. After you reach over a certain age, and you got set, you got all the education, you got all the degrees, you begin to realize, I might not have an opportunity to have these different things, to get a husband or to have children, and you become that boss chick because that's what I had to give. The other way is, you have these younger women that become the boss chicks out of default because they're being raised by boss chicks. They're being raised by boss chick grandmas, boss chick mamas, and they're being raised by these women because a lot of times they've been hurt by men. And so when being hurt by men, let down and hurt by men, father not in the home, and so they've decided, I'm going to protect myself. By protecting myself, I'm going to protect my daughter. And how do I protect my daughter? I'm going to tell her to go get all the education that she can get so she doesn't have to depend on a man, because men are going to let her down. So go get all the education you can so you can provide for yourself, and if you have children, you can provide for them too, because they can't trust men. And so you have this generation of grandmothers and mothers that have raised these children to go out, and these women to go out and be boss chicks. And at the same time, I'll touch on this just a little bit, they're raising their sons completely different because they don't have that husband that they can love on and feel on and touch on and cuddle to. They're replacing that because they have that need and putting that on their son. And so simultaneously we're raising these strong, independent black women, and we're raising these weak men. So
I said this on Talk Live myself. I've said that over and over again, and I'm glad that this lovely lady here has brought it to your attention again. That most men of a certain stature will not take a woman who simply wants to make her ladies stronger and her men weaker. They won't do it. They will not take to that kindly. So, as this lady said, she didn't want to be a statistic herself. She didn't want to be part of that generation that said, you know what, we're going to raise strong women and independent women, not needing a man women. Fine. And as you know, as you may or may not know, 45% of women by 2030 will be single and childless because they led with their careers. Even though there's an innate need in most of them to have children. So you're raising stronger, well, I wouldn't say strong, you're raising stronger mentality, more masculine men, let's say that, more masculine men and less masculine, you're raising more masculine ladies and less masculine men. That's what's happening in this now gynocracy, which is throwing everything aside because, quite simply, what do women want? Women want men who are masculine, for the most part. How are you going to get masculine men from non-masculine homes? That's another sidebar. So, that is why men put at a premium a woman who is traditional, who wants to raise their ladies feminine and their men masculine. And they'll pay a premium to do it. Let's continue.
That whole boss chick thing, that touches me. Because that we need to really step back from that. And I believe by bringing some of these traditional values back, bringing moms back into the home, bringing family business, because I'm very involved in our family business. I'm like, babe, what you need? What we doing now? What's our next move? I'm very involved in that. Even with the 2-year-old, I was less involved in it when she was 1. But as she gets older, it's giving me more and more leeway to, oh, okay, I can sit her down and she can read and she can, watch a little show or she can do whatever and mommy can go do this. And it gives me more leeway. But when she was younger, I knew what my role was for her. And so everything changes and grows. And I think a lot of times when women hear traditional wife, traditional mom, traditional all of this, they get so scared because they've not seen it. You didn't see your grandmother being traditional. You saw your grandmother being man and woman. You saw her being mom and dad. You saw your mom being mom and dad. And a lot of times, even when a man is in the house, he doesn't even know how to be a man because he didn't have a father in the home.
Yes.
So we got work to do. We really do. And the traditional family unit is a way to get that unit back together so we can start growing the Black community. Then we can grow outward. But we got to start with family first, and then we can start growing the Black community.
Yeah, there he is. I'm holding my hands up too because that is exactly what Professor Galloway in our prior clip from CNN wants. He wants the reestablishment of the middle class. This time with Black people in it. Because the last time we weren't exactly participants in the middle class. At that time after the war, after World War II, that is. But in this one he does, because quite simply, through the middle class, you find more masculine men and you find more feminine ladies when you're in a 2-parent household, because there are 2 representatives within that house. That's the reason why I stay here and close to my nephew, so they have that masculine influence, because not all men have it. And men will play a premium. And getting back to you ladies, this is about you. If you want to find, men will pay a premium to find that feminine woman, to find that traditional woman, as you see right here. Some men are lucky. Some men can find them off rip, and they find them the traditional way. But a lot of men are willing to pay matchmakers serious dough to find a traditional one. Serious dough. Because that is the only way to bring back standards, bring back values, bring back traditions that will lead to the broadening of the middle class and and bring back the family. Quite simply. It'll bring back families. So, ladies, I mean, your careers are great. Let's face facts. You worked hard. You've found yourself. You put yourself in a position to which you should be proud. But I'm here to tell you, if you want that man of your dreams, if you are hypergamous, the only way you're going to stand out as being in a hypergamous world is to be avant-garde to hypergamy. So therefore, be traditional. Be traditional. Now, a lot of ladies, can they handle that? Can they be traditional? That's the question. But here, it's clearly seen that most men see that, put that at a premium. They put that at a real premium. Let's continue.
I'm sitting here letting this thing get sick a little bit, y'all. My sound guy took off his earphones. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here like you literally just pissing people off.
I should have. I hope to. Because it takes being pissed off to move. If you're sitting there comfortable, then you're not going to make any moves. I am here. I want some thought-provoking, am I doing the right stuff to move my family forward? We're big on creating legacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
How can I create a legacy if I'm working 40 hours over here and you're working 40 hours over there? And this is what we're teaching what legacy looks like? How can that be family business and how can that be legacy if we're both separated and doing different things?
And we're talking about generational wealth. That's like one of the buzzwords out here. Absolutely. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. How do you? Family is the biggest progenitor to generational wealth, right? Right. And
I said this over and over and over again on Talk Live. The best way to build generational wealth is through the family. I said it time and time again, but you know, a lot of people, a lot of you on Talk Live have listened, but a lot of you on Talk Live have not. In this day and age, it's 2 points. To raise generational wealth, you need traditional families, and to be in a traditional family, you need a traditional woman. That's why men will pay a premium. Men will do the utmost. Men will go to any length. They'll fly around the world to find a traditional woman because that's exactly how generational wealth begins. And here's the second thing. It's like the Godfather himself, Kevin Samuels, said, and we're coming up near to his the anniversary of his death. God rest his soul, and I say peace to his family, who are at and I hope that his legacy lives on forever, and he's a part of the culture now. But here's the thing: he always said, "We will go down in looks to go up in cooperation." This is an average-looking lady here. This ain't no 8, 9, 10. This is a solid 6, solid 5, solid 6 to certain men. We as men will, I repeat, will work with you if you're willing to be a traditional woman. We'll work with you at any size, a lot of sizes. Let me say that. We don't want obese, but we'll work with you at a lot of sizes and any look. At any look, if you are traditional. We will bend over backwards in order for you to be a part of our lives and be a part of our legacy. If more women led with being traditional on their dating app, believe me, they will not be lonely for long. I'm telling you this. You will not be lonely for long. You'll be off the market quick. Some man somewhere, and you get to choose who that man is. Remember, in this age of hypergamy, you can choose who that man is. You can get that man of your dreams, of your liking, by simply being a traditional woman. Yeah. She says it right here. Because these are the women that men seek. All men seek. This is one that across the board men want. Then you get to pick and choose who that man is. Remember, the ball is still in your court as to who that man is, ladies. So it's a win-win for you. Let's continue.
And having children, the nuclear family, right? Because here's another thing that's out there right now too is, black men and black fathers particularly are being replaced by the village. Well, it don't have to be a village as well, but that's not as a replacement to the father, right? So we hear a lot of this village talk, but we're going to have these nuclear families where it starts with the husband and wife, right? Where we're on the same page, we have the same worldview, we have the same vision, we have the same philosophy of boom, this is where we're going. You can't hit a target you don't have, right? So we got the target that we're going to hit, right? And then when we're solid together, then the children come into place and we're building something. How do you have a strong society without strong community? do you have strong communities without strong families? And how do you have strong families without strong marriages? Right? So it starts here, right, with the marriage first, and into the family, and into the community, and then that's how we make the impact on society. Yeah.
This used to be, you got to sit there and think about that, because this used to be how society used to run for thousands of years. It's only within the last 40 to 50, and with the onset of the women's movement, and onset of feminism, and onset of dating apps, and onset of Instagram, that this has now changed. This has now changed. And now it is, as we said in that short there from whatever, men are willing to take women who are lesser than their grandmothers and great-grandmothers in order to start a relationship. They know that, these women are hypergamous. They know that these women may be promiscuous over time. As long as they keep those things silent, it doesn't get out there. Men are willing to take a lot of these ladies, not necessarily you, but a lot of these ladies on. Yes, women have the keys to sex, and men having the keys to dating and to relationships and marriage. But at the end of the day, if you want to put yourself ahead of that pack, be traditional. And we've been telling you this for time immemorial, but you see your career as being more valuable than a man himself. A career is not providing you with generational wealth. A career is not providing you with a family. It isn't. And that's where you have to make a choice. Do you want to be alone? If you want to be alone, continue down the road you're going down right now. Lead with your career. Show that you don't need a man. Show that you don't wish to have a relationship. Be hypergamous. And you'll get what you want, which is being alone. But if you don't want that, and you want that man you drink, you're going to have to make a certain sacrifice, and that is leading. Even though you are competent, you are career-minded, you deserve the accolades to which you receive. But at the end of the day, a lot of these women who are highly accredited, very established in their careers, very astute, very erudite individuals, still have men. Reason being, they know when to have that traditional role. Because again, at the end of the day, this world needs two incomes. Only a very, very few will allow a woman to stay at home while a man earns his keep. And that's usually the top 5-10% of men. So, but again, if you don't want to be alone, I'm just saying, this is how you set yourself apart.
Yeah. Tradition is traditional. No, because you got me thinking. You know what I'm saying? Why do I want to send my wife out there to go work 40 hours for another man to build his vision?
Right.
And then we're not building the vision, which is our vision. And again, hear me clearly, y'all. Y'all know I'm very big on finances. I'm very big on getting out of debt. You know that. I'm not saying do not get you a job to pay your bills and be a responsible human being. But what is the vision for you and your spouse? That's what I'm hearing from you.
Right.
And it's like, get that vision. Then when you get that vision, work towards that vision. Don't serve another man's vision.
Right.
All the time. For the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Think of the percentage, right? If you're working a 9-to-5, you're working a job. Think of the percentage of your waking hours that's devoted to that, right? So if you say 24 hours a day, you sleep for 8, right? Some people, I don't sleep that much, whatever, right? We're just gonna say 8 hours of sleep, right? So 16 waking hours. You got an 8-hour job, but it ain't really 8 hours. It's 8 hours work shift, hour lunch. So there's 9 hours at the job. The commute there, the commute back, right? 10 hours, easy. So 10 of the 16 hours that you're awake.
It's going
toward it. And so you live for the nights and the weekends. Now you're living your life for nights and weekends. Watch this. You get up, get dressed, give your best outside the house. She gonna get up. Look at my wife, right? So she looking good, right? You know what I'm saying?
I don't respect it.
You
You
beautiful now. You know what I'm saying? So she gonna get up and get dressed like this, with the perfume on,
For another man.
for another man. Have a work husband, all that foolishness, right? Have a work husband.
What husband?
Right? I'm gonna get suited and booted, go over here, and have a work wife, and we're gonna spend most of our day in those environments. And then she gonna come home, and what do women do when they come home? I gotta take my face off. Oh, so wait a minute, you had to go put on the makeup, and you did all that to look good, and she gonna put on the sweats, tie her hair up, and take her. Look, watch this. We both at home now, right? Guess what? I still put on cologne at home.
Yeah.
Just to be like, where you going?
Right.
I'm just feeling good for her. I don't gotta I wanna do it to go out somewhere else. And then she gets to be around a man that is showing his position of power, right? Because he's a supervisor, the manager, the CEO, whatever the case is. So she's getting to see him make decisions and be, and she's seeing him super just the best. But when she come home, she get to see my jaws on the floor, right? She, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've been married for 15 years, but she smell when you know what I'm saying? She don't see none of that. Like he don't leave his jaws on the floor too. Like, he don't,
She sees the best side.
she see the best side in him, right? And we wonder why, like, so many affairs happen in the workplace.
Because they only see the best side of each other.
Then they start, if something is happening at home, you confide in it, you talk to somebody, just proximity, just the people that you're around the most, right? How many times we think we have friends at a job and then you leave it?
Okay, well, again, that goes into the whole job sector, but we're here on this other subject in terms of traditional, being a traditional, setting itself apart from the dating space. And thank you very much for joining me on Talk live on IG and YouTube. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Like, subscribe, comment. So, as was said in this little caption here, we're just gonna get away from it here. Shout out to the Table with AO. They're doing great work. Like and subscribe to them. This is a great little conversation with this married couple. And what they were saying there is the fact that you give your best to your job rather than to your family. And that's what happens with a lot of ladies these days. A lot of gentlemen as well, but a lot of ladies these days, that you will give your best to your job rather than to your man, because again, if you live in a job where you have to wear suits and dresses, and you have to look at your best, they'll only see you at your best, then that can be an issue, because that can be attributable to affairs in the office, which we've already talked about on Talk Live. Is the fact that most affairs, most opportunities of cheating start in the workplace. So to have that sort of influence on your woman, instead of her being at home helping build a legacy, build a family through a business within that family, and also the fact that when you want to leave the workplace, you have a certain high price for you to leave there, because again, you've worked hard for these certain for your certain place in society. It is it sets you apart in a bad way in the dating market, because again, you become hypergamous, so you only want a man earning much more than you, and to be at your best while doing it. And that's only a certain amount of men who can do that. So again, greater chance of you being alone, greater chance of you being in an affair by being in this environment where, if you're a traditional woman, and you wish to, for a certain time of your career, raise a family and be that traditional mother and add to a legacy and add to generational wealth, men see that as a godsend. Men would much rather be with you than any other woman who lays with their career, which is, I think it's a problem case. But but again, it's something that you need to consider if you're entering the dating market, especially. And now, I would not recommend this to the young, like the 16 to 24, 25 year olds, because they're just finding their way. And let's face facts. all I could recommend to those is if you're going to be promiscuous, which is the majority of people, keep your body count to a relative minimum. Like, don't go up, to exorbitant sums that will take you out, that will not lead men to take you seriously. That's all I would say for you ladies, because again, you are in demand at that time. You're at your sexual peak at that time, so you have to be very, very selective in with whom you invite into your private spaces. You have to be very, but again, to those who are above 25 and older, you have to set yourself apart from the pack, because a lot of men are looking towards these ladies as being candidates because they're young, they're fertile, and they're at their sexual peak. So where does that leave you? The only way that leaves you is that the only leg up you have on these ladies, because these ladies do not have the skills to be a mother yet. Some do, but most don't. Some do, but most do not. So how do you set yourself apart, ladies, in the dating market? Is not leading with your career. Is not leading with your wallet. It is leading with the fact that you would like to be traditional one day. One day. The fact that you can cook, you can clean, you can raise a family for the right man. And I say raising for every man, but for the right man, you can do this. And that'll set you apart from the rest. And then you can decide who you want in your life. So for you to lead with your career and to show you, I'm single, independent, I don't need a man, wrong idea. I say that's definitely a well, it's not a strategy that leads to success for the most part. It doesn't, because usually you'll find a man that you won't respect, or you'll not find the man of the dreams. So that's why I'm asking you ladies to be selective and lead with tradition rather than with modernity, because modernity will lead you down a bad road, quite simply. Let's continue the conversation. Let me see here if I have anything else. Yeah, okay, here we go. We're going to get into valuetainment here, and valuetainment and Donovan Sharp. Now, Donovan Sharp is a very controversial man within the manosphere, within this, and again, he can be taken with a grain of salt, but here I think he adds value to the conversation, because he's explaining why traditional men why men value traditional women more. So let's get into it.
The more probability of her divorcing, being unhappy, cheating, the list goes on and on and on. So it's not like okay, hold on. Each dick you suck doesn't add like a revelation.
All right, so Donovan, if you're saying those are facts, I assume that Devin, who's 47, 46. I apologize, Devin, you're a beautiful girl.
Okay.
I assume you didn't take Devin's virginity.
Of course not. But
Okay.
hold on. Here's the difference.
I know.
What you want and what's possible are two different things. If, as far as marriage and children are concerned, every guy would like to marry a virgin, but in this day and age, it's just not possible. Just because of the way. Hold on.
I don't know if that's an accurate statement. I don't think every guy wants to marry a virgin.
Ideally,
I think we're on the same page. Hear me out.
All right.
That we want a lower body count.
Yes.
We're not trying to marry some fucking porn star asshole that's banged 1,000 dudes.
Sure.
100,000,000%. But I don't
Anything
think
over.
every guy's like, I'm on the hunt for that
Listen,
virgin.
it's not every guy, but if you ask most men who are interested in having children, ideally, I'm not saying that this is at all possible, because I've never had sex with a virgin, but most men ideally would like a virgin. Now, just like you brought up with Devin, I don't know. I asked on a podcast the other day, do you know how many men Devin has had sex with? I don't know, and we will never know.
You don't ask her?
Of course not.
So what if she says her count is 62?
She
would you
would never.
divorce her?
She would never tell me because
But what if she did? Say she
she
did.
would never. No, she wouldn't.
And
But if she did,
Hold on.
would you
I
divorce
wouldn't be in
her?
a relationship with her.
situation
Yeah.
based on his reality, would he make certain adjustments if
Well,
that reality
Hang on,
was
let me
different?
answer her question.
That's all.
Here's the thing, and pro tip for the ladies: do not talk about past. If you care for the guy,
We'll be back just soon on Talk Live. I cannot believe that we're going into this again with Instagram, but we're getting into this. So run back with me on Talk Live. Things are just getting good, and all of a sudden this thing on Instagram goes out. So join me back and Talk Live in a couple of seconds, okay? Come on back. Unbelievable, this shit. Welcome back to Talk Live. We are back. We are live. I don't know what is going on with Instagram, but it's happening again. But we are back. We are live. I'm hoping that you join me on this journey here. And thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Live on IG and YouTube. Sponsored by Duntalk, DUNTALK.com. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to continue things on here. Let me see if I have any comments in the YouTube space here. Let me see. Nothing. No, we're good. Okay. And again, we're going to go back to it here on Talk Live, and then we're going to break this down a bit further. But thank you very much for joining me here. Sponsored by Duntalk, DUNTALK.com. I'm not wearing Duntalk today, but I will be wearing it on next show. Let's get into this again.
I've slept with 7 guys. If you tell a guy like me that you've slept with 7 guys, I'm going to quit within about a week or two. I'm going to know whether you're lying or not. Because a lot of guys, unfortunately, take a woman's word at face value. Women know that women sell purity, right?
Yes.
And the reason why when you ask a woman what her body count is, she hesitates, is because she knows inherently that a woman with a high body count is not attractive to men of value for a long-term relationship. And so when Devin and I first got together and we started talking, the very first week she started talking about her ex-boyfriend. I said, whoa. I said, first off, if you and I are going to continue this thing, I do not want to know about your ex-boyfriends. I don't want to know how many guys you slept with. You need to keep all that to yourself. And that's just for my mental well-being, because just like you said, when you date a woman, you're dating all of her past relationships, and the less you know, the better off you'll be mentally. It's just not feasible to date a woman, especially in this day and age, with a low body count. So just keep that away.
Let me ask you a question. And by the way, we gotta get the super chats in a second. So if I cut anybody off, it's because we need to get super chats. From your perspective, and then I'm gonna get the girls and everyone here. What are the rules of the road for speaking to exes, talking about your exes, or talking about?
Okay, let's just move this on a little bit further.
The first couple of times she asked me, I said, no, you don't want to be in a relationship with a guy like me.
You give the, hey, you don't want this.
Right. I said,
You don't want my life.
Listen, I said, you don't want to
You
be
seen Dewey Cox, by the way?
Okay, I think this is going off the rails here, so let me just take it from here. Ladies, let me just go off of here because I thought this would be something, but it's actually not. Maybe it's a little further on in the conversation. But, ladies, we know that you. Actually, I'm gonna feature this in just a second. One of these shorts here, but we know that you are career goal orientated. We know that you're driven. We know that you have ideas set on your ideal man, and usually the man is, on average 6 foot tall, 6 inches or more, 6-figure salary, and again, a high value man in and of itself. And what men of certain stature and certain status want from a woman is a woman who can help them bring forth a legacy, who can help them bring forward their goals, their wishes, their dreams, their prospects. And the only way you can do that, a lot of women lead with their career in this sense, but men really don't care about careers of ladies, unfortunately. They don't. It's not helping. Unless it helps the bottom line, they don't care about certain careers. Now, as my man says here, and we're going to get into it, Talk Live here, let me just play this out.
a woman, you gotta create a traditional environment. There's so many dudes that expect a woman to go to work 40 hours a week, come home, clean up the whole house, cook a meal, take care of the kids, put the kids to bed, have porn star sex with them, and pay half of the bills. That's not realistic. Traditionally, man paid all the bills, and the woman stayed home and took care of the house. So if you don't make enough money to create that type of infrastructure, then you cannot claim to want a traditional woman because you are not a traditional man. You gotta go both ways. Like, you can't have tradition when it's convenient for you to. Like, yeah, I wanna go half on the, bills and all of that, but I still need you cooking, cleaning, and doing everything, that a traditional woman is supposed to do. Meanwhile, I'm not providing like a traditional man did. That makes zero sense. But so many men in this area expect that. If you want.
So that's a bit of a feather in your cap, ladies, in the sense that if you want to, this is where I said before that if you want to be a traditional woman, you need a traditional man, and traditional men will pay a premium for you to be a traditional woman. They will have you stay. They will earn a certain amount. They will pay all bills. They will do what's necessary. They will do what's necessary in order to be that traditional role model guy. But they are at a premium, these gentlemen. And for you to lead with your career, ladies, in most of these instances, is a problem, especially if you are of a certain age. If you're over 25, you're moving into that danger zone category, as Kevin would call it, the 27 to 35-year-olds, where most men are looking towards 24 to 25-year-olds because they don't have that much baggage, and they're willing to, and they have the youth, beauty, and fertility necessary to start a legacy and to raise a family. Now, if you want to put yourself ahead of these ladies, give the inclination that you can be a traditional woman. Don't lead with your career. That is the worst thing you could do as a lady. The worst thing you could do. You'll attract here's the thing. You lead with your career, ladies, more often than not you'll attract a lower value guy. I'll tell you straight up. You'll attract a lower value guy. A guy you will not stay with for long, that you will not respect. If you're choosing a guy who is on his way to a certain earnings value, or is earning above average, or earning above average, or is a high value man himself, more often than not, they are looking for women who are willing to be traditional. Even guys, because again, men are in the minority in the dating market, and only a certain. Let's face facts. I mean, most women see 80% of men as being unattractive. As being unattractive. 80% of men don't exist to women. So if you want to be a part of that 20%, what are those 20% expecting from you? They're expecting you, when called upon, to be traditional. To be able to cook, to be able to clean, to be able to provide, to raise your children, and to provide culturally for them, and to be a part of generational wealth. So if you want to be more eligible for those gentlemen, number one, and you are of average looks, lead with tradition. Without question, lead with tradition. I'm telling you that straight out. So many of you women lead with your careers, and you ask the wrong questions of men of what you do, and what this and this and this and this and that. Fine, that's one way of dealing with things, but what are men asking in return? Can you be a part of a family unit? Can you be of certain traditional ideals, values, and qualities and abilities? If you can do that, ladies, The dating world is your oyster. I'll say that again and again. The dating world is your oyster by just having those skills at the ready. You don't necessarily need it, but if you're raising kids, you're going to need them. You are going to need them. I'm just telling the truth. This is what men have, from time immemorial, put a premium on. This is what passport bros are flying to different locales in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in most patriarchal societies in South America and Central America. That's what they're flying off to find. They're off to find traditional women because they are at a paucity here in the developed world. So, if you can do that, set yourselves apart from the rest. Let me see if there's anything else I need to discuss. But again, that it's just common sense, ladies. For you to lead with your career. Okay, this last little clip, and then we're gonna get out of here. If you want to lead with your career with any man, and if you think a man is interested in it, you're fooling yourself. You're doing it to appease you, and to give you enough attention so that we may in turn get the goods, as they say. That's part of the game. Just giving you game. But you having that traditional mindset when called upon will bring so many men to your table, even of average looks. Let's get into this one, and I featured this here on Talk Live recently. I don't want to date modern women, but just sum up with this from Chisa Zed, and he is a part of the Coffee Pod, a very good space on YouTube. Subscribe to him. Let's get into it and what he talks about.
Chisa Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make.
Woman, don't believe me? Check it out for yourself.
There was a study called from the Pew Center Research conducted a study that said 63% of men under age 30 would rather stay home and go on a date. Men say they are getting their needs met without having to go on a date. Would men rather stay single than be with a woman? Is the question.
That's what they're saying, pretty much.
63% of men. I think they're cheap. Yeah, they just ain't got no money.
Yes, please breathe, because that's the fallback for most ladies anyways. But again, let's get into it again.
Relax, Chisha, relax. Nice, calm down, settle down. Let's keep watching.
I have money, which you should get your money up before you start dating. So it is cheaper to sit home and beat your meat than actually go out and find actual women to hang out with.
That's
I
a sad
disagree.
reality.
I disagree.
Why? What do you think?
Is it less?
What do you think? Here we go.
With a woman or something?
There it goes. Like, it's a headache. Now I gotta take you out. I gotta hear what you had to tell your whole day.
That's why you take out people you actually like.
Where are they? Where are these pleasant women?
Yeah, but then what? I gotta get to know you first to like you, right?
Yeah.
So how do I get to know you?
Talk.
So you ran a pan?
Hey, listen, I'm married.
There you go. That's it.
These nigga problems.
If he wasn't married.
I'd probably beat him. I mean, 100 miles an hour.
Oh, my dude said 100 miles an hour. Yo, I'm hella weak, man.
Yeah. You got a guy who's willing to beat his meat at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And these may be good men in and of itself. But they don't want to deal with women who are modern. They don't want to deal with you guys. They don't want to deal. They'd rather fly away or stay at home and, be incels or hermits or whatever the case may be. But they get their needs filled by watching porn than dealing with ladies because their standards are way too high. But men are willing to extend themselves if they realize that there's a payout at the end of the day, which is that their families are going to be nurtured by a good woman, which is very, very hard to find these days, and the men are willing to pay a premium in order to do it. Let's continue.
Yeah, man, you hear this all the time. Here's the problem with these type of videos where they talk about like men are choosing to not take women out, so instead, what are they resorting to? Well, they're watching PORN, right? They try to shame men a lot of times in these type of situations and make it sound like this crisis is because men are failing to be real men. And it's almost like women forget that men love women. Yeah, you see the content all around talking about modern women this, and there's this discussion about where things are going in the dating market right now, but men love women. Men watch adult content to watch women. And when I say men love women, they love the presence of a pleasant woman. They love seeing the body of a woman. They enjoy spending time with women. And so in this conversation, which you saw this group of people had, the guy who's married said, hey, so why would I want to take you out and listen to all your problems and, you know, you complaining, etc.? And she said, well, that's why you take somebody that you like. Could women possibly entertain the idea that most of them aren't pleasant to be around? Would you guys say, honestly, who's more pleasant? The average man who you run across with in the streets and you want to maybe spark a conversation and just say, hey, how you doing? Or the average woman? Are modern women today pleasant, or are they generally given a pass to be unpleasant, to carry themselves like you're not a joy to be around, and they look like they need a cup of coffee, but they don't want to go grab a cup of coffee because it's too much work?
I just don't really want to do that. That's just too much work.
But in general, what I've noticed is women aren't that pleasant. Women aren't that pleasant nowadays, and that's just the truth. And men are getting to the point where the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? They're also getting to the point where like, this isn't, I'm not getting the value that I think I should be getting for the amount of work I have to do to conversate, take a woman out on a date, and try to figure out, is she just kind? Is she a kind person? You know, let alone nurturing, feminine, and all those other things. For example, guys, take a look at this interview that I saw a long time ago. I just didn't get a chance to show it to you guys. It's this guy is doing like the street interview thing, but he's asking women what they would say to their ex, and look at the different responses between the women and the men.
If you could say one thing to your ex, what would it be?
Fuck you, have fun pissing in your bed.
I'd say hello.
Again, does that sound like a traditional woman to you? Nope. Men don't want to be around them. Let's continue.
You are doing well, and I hope your family's doing well, and I'm happy for whatever's going your way.
To my ex. Fuck that. I'm saying. Fuck that. Fuck both of them. Second.
I appreciate you. Thank you for everything. I mean, it sucks that it didn't work out. You know, we were at two different points in our life. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. I hope she's doing well. Hope the relationship she's in now, that her and her boyfriend are, you know, doing wonderful things. Sucks it didn't work out, but I mean, that's just life. You just gotta move on.
All right, guys, there you go.
And there we go. We're going to end it at that point, but I'm going to have a final word on this, and that is, ladies, that's how most women see modern women as. Foul-mouthed, leading with their careers, a bit arrogant, especially those who live in the developed world. And men don't want to deal with that anymore. They'd rather sit at home. They'd rather beat their meat. Let's go back to the full screen here. They'd rather sit at home. They'd rather beat their meat. They'd rather not participate in the sexual marketplace. And they'd rather just resign themselves to being fine with being themselves. And we've seen earlier on Talk Live what happens to the men who are resigned to being with themselves. Some men, you know, can either take it the wrong way, but a lot more men won't. So we need more, and that leads to dire consequences. So we need women to decide now yes, well, if you're going to be hypergamous, be hypergamous with a purpose. And that is with the idea of being a traditional woman for the right guy. And that'll set you apart from the rest, quite simply. It would indeed. And once you do that, then your dating prospects are that much greater. They are. More you'll get more higher quality men, and men who will take you seriously and will eventually, sorry about that, guys, I just had to see something here. Yes, and men would eventually see you as being a wifely candidate. But that is for you to decide again. But I'm just giving you a game. Hopefully you take it on. But if not, then you know the reason why. So thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. We're going to end it there. We're reaching the hour 30 mark. And hopefully you ladies will take that under consideration. You don't have to, but again, it's what will set you apart in the dating market. And I welcome your comments. Comment below as to how you like this show. We're going to try and keep these shows shorter and sharper. And we have hopefully something happening in the works going forward, but I'm not going to announce that until I can. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Ladies, please, 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 please choose wisely, but realize that being traditional pays. It pays in more ways than one, and you should really, really keep it in mind while going forward, especially if you are of a older age bracket in terms of dating. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. More videos on the way. I am imperative in terms of getting that done this week and seeing to things, but with the girlfriend it is a bit troublesome. And but again, I endeavor to do that this week. But thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live, and we will see you on Thursday night back with a new show. And like getting the word out earlier these days, so I'm going to put out promo for that tomorrow. And looking forward to seeing you Thursday. So I wish you a good night. Hopefully all goes well for you. I'm going to watch a little baseball, a little playoffs as well, some NBA basketball. My Arsenal wins today, thank goodness. So still in first place as of today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Again, we wet the bed already, so hopefully things will stay intact. But yes, I wish you ladies well. Hopefully you take this to heart, and we move forward. And we'll talk to you on Thursday night. And thank goodness this thing held up after I made the switch. So I wish you well. Good night. And I'll speak to you soon. And thank you very much for joining me here in Toronto. And I thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on YouTube right here. And look forward to speaking to you on Thursday night with a new topic. We've reached the hour 30 mark. We're going to try and keep things short and sharp these days, not going into the 2-3 hour range. We're going to try and keep it an hour or less. And thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Well, we went to an hour 30 today, but we had to flesh out the topic. But no more big days. But anyways, thank you very much for joining me. And we'll speak to you guys very, very soon. And ladies, I wish you well in your dating prospects. Sponsored by Duntalk, DUNTALK.com. DUNTALK.com. Like, subscribe.